Over dinner one evening, I said something that changed everything between us in a single instant. I didn't realize until that night how a few careless stories could shake the very foundation of a relationship I thought was solid. We were at a quiet little restaurant, the kind with low lights and soft background music that makes every table feel private. I had taken extra time to get ready. He looked effortlessly sharp, and for once it felt like life had slowed down enough for us to just enjoy each other's company. The food was perfect, the atmosphere cozy, and the wine added just enough warmth to the conversation. It all started so harmlessly. We were swapping funny stories from our younger years, laughing over silly choices and wild little moments. He told me about sneaking into a concert without tickets, and we both laughed so much that strangers nearby smiled at us. I felt close to him, like I could say anything, like nothing was off-limits. That's when I made the mistake. Half smiling, I leaned closer and said, "You think that's wild? Wait until you hear about me back then." Without pausing, I launched into tales I should have left buried. Nights of reckless partying, meaningless flings, and careless choices I had once thought were exciting. I wasn't trying to shock him. It felt more like I was competing, trying to prove I had been just as bold, just as fun. But instead of laughing with me, his expression shifted. The amusement disappeared from his eyes, his smile faded, and he leaned back in his chair instead of toward me. He set his fork down and just looked at me. Not like he was entertained, not even like he was shocked. It was worse. He looked at me like I had become a stranger sitting across from him. I tried to keep things light, laughing at my own stories, but he stayed quiet, distant. The harder I tried, the more I felt that awful sinking sensation in my stomach. And for the first time in years, I felt ashamed of words that had spilled out so easily. The restaurant suddenly felt suffocating, the music too loud, the lights too dim. Then he asked, in a voice that was calm but unnervingly steady, "Why are you telling me this?" He wasn't angry. He wasn't raising his voice. But that even, quiet tone pierced deeper than any outburst could have. I stumbled to explain, saying they were just old memories, meaningless now, just silly things I'd grown out of. But even as I spoke, I knew how hollow it all sounded. He had seen me as someone stable, someone with a future worth holding on to. And with a few careless words, I had torn open a window to a version of myself I thought I had buried, and he couldn't close it again. We finished dinner, but the spark had gone. He spoke little, his words polite and distant, his focus on the food instead of me. When the bill came, he paid without hesitation, but the warmth in his eyes was gone. Outside, the night air felt cold, and I knew something had shifted between us, something I wasn't sure I could ever repair. The drive home was silent. I wanted to reach for his hand, to apologize, to say that the woman sitting beside him was not the same one from those stories. But the words refused to come. I had been so quick to talk, yet now, when it mattered most, I had nothing. At home, he said he was tired and went to bed without the usual kiss or embrace. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word I had said, feeling the weight of how much damage I'd done in so little time. The next morning, he was courteous but cold, like we were two people coexisting rather than partners building a life. And in that moment, I learned something painful. The past doesn't always stay where it belongs. Stories we think are harmless can expose a version of ourselves that someone else might not be ready to see. I don't know if that night was the beginning of the end, or simply a fracture that would take time to heal. But I do know this, what he felt wasn't anger. It wasn't even judgment. It was disappointment. And disappointment cuts deeper than anything else, because it isn't about what you've done. It's about who you've been. That's why I'll never forget the way he looked at me that night. Not with hatred, not with love, but with the cold realization that the person he thought he knew wasn't really the one sitting in front of him.